Lily chuckled softly, pulling a chair up to his bedside. It's normal to feel that way. But healing takes time. Your body needs rest, even if your mind is ready to get back to normal life. Eric glanced at her, appreciating the way she always seemed to know the right thing to say. How long have you been doing this? He asked, curious. Nursing. Lily smiled, settling into the chair. About 5 years now. I started right out of school. It's what I've always wanted to do. Why? Eric asked, genuinely interested. I mean, it can't be easy, seeing people sick or in pain every day. Lily's smile faded slightly, and she looked down at her hands for a moment before answering. I guess I've always liked helping people. When I was younger, my mom was sick for a long time. We spent a lot of time in hospitals, and I saw how much of a difference the nurses made. They were the ones who really cared. They weren't just doing a job, they were making sure my mom was comfortable, that she felt human. I wanted to be that person for someone else. Eric nodded, feeling a deeper connection to her now. There was something so genuine about Lily, something that made him feel safe in a way he hadn't felt in a long time. She didn't just see him as a patient. She saw him as someone who was struggling, and she cared about that. What about you? Lily asked, her eyes brightening again. What did you do before this? I'm an architect, Eric said, though the words felt strange in his mouth now. It was as if his old life was something distant, something he couldn't quite connect with anymore. Lily raised an eyebrow. An architect? That sounds interesting. Eric shrugged. It's a good job. I like building things, designing spaces that make people feel good. But lately, it's been hard to focus on work with everything else going on in my life. Everything else? Lily prompted gently. Eric hesitated. He hadn't talked to anyone about Sarah since the accident. He wasn't even sure if he should. But something about Lily's presence made him feel like he could open up, even just a little. I'm engaged, he said slowly, the words heavy, to a woman named Sarah. But things haven't been easy between us lately. Lily nodded, her face calm and understanding. Relationships can be complicated, especially when you're going through something like this. Eric let out a bitter laugh. It was complicated before the accident. We've been fighting a lot. About money, mostly. Sarah likes to spend, and I've been trying to get her to think more about our future, about saving, but she doesn't want to listen. It's like we're living in two different worlds. Lily listened quietly, not interrupting as Eric continued. I love her, but I don't know. I thought getting married would solve everything, that we'd figure it out, but now I'm not so sure. The words hung in the air, heavy with doubt. Eric had never admitted that out loud before, not even to himself. But now, sitting here, talking to Lily, it felt like the truth. Lily didn't offer any advice or solutions. She just sat with him, her presence calm and steady. It sounds like you've been carrying a lot of weight on your shoulders, she said softly. Eric nodded, feeling the tightness in his chest ease a little. Yeah, I guess I have. You don't have to figure it all out right now, Lily said, her voice gentle. Give yourself some time to heal. Things will become clearer with time. Eric looked at her, feeling a strange sense of comfort in her words. She wasn't pushing him to make decisions or telling him what to do. She was just there, offering support in the way she knew how. "Thanks," Eric said quietly, not sure how to express how much her presence meant to him. Lily smiled again, standing up and brushing off her scrubs. "I'll check on you later. If you need anything, just press the button, okay?" Eric nodded, watching as she left the room. As soon as she was gone, the room felt a little emptier, a little colder. He lay back in the bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to sort through his thoughts. The truth was, he didn't know what to do about Sarah. The accident had shaken him in more ways than one, and now he was starting to question everything: his relationship, his job, his future. But there was one thing he was sure of: Lily's kindness was something he hadn't realized he needed. She was a bright spot in the darkness of his recovery, and every time she came into the room, Eric felt a little more like himself again. He wasn't sure what that meant yet. He wasn't even sure what he felt. But for now, it was enough just to feel a little less alone. Later that afternoon, Sarah came to visit. Eric wasn't sure how to feel when she walked into the room, her high heels clicking against the tile floor. She was dressed in a chic, expensive outfit, her makeup perfect, but there was something distant about her, something that made Eric's heart sink. "Hey," she said, walking up to the bed and giving him a quick kiss on the cheek. "How are you feeling?" "Sore," Eric replied, his voice neutral. "But I'm getting better." Sarah nodded, glancing around the room as if she was already bored. "That's good. I've been so busy with work, but I've been thinking about you." Eric frowned, noticing the way she was avoiding eye contact. "I've been thinking too," he said slowly. "About a lot of things." Sarah finally met his gaze, but her expression was unreadable. "What kind of things?" "About us," Eric admitted, his voice soft but firm. "About where we're headed." Sarah's face tightened, and she crossed her arms defensively. "Eric, we don't need to talk about this right now. You need to focus on getting better." But Eric wasn't ready to drop it. "No, I think we do need to talk. Things haven't been right between us for a while, and this accident, it made me realize some things." Sarah stared at him, her eyes cold. "What are you saying?" Eric took a deep breath, his heart pounding. He wasn't sure where the words would lead, but he knew they had to be spoken. "I'm saying that maybe we need to rethink getting married. Maybe we need to rethink everything." Sarah's eyes widened in shock, but before she could respond, Eric's thoughts were interrupted by a soft knock on the door. It was Lily, standing there quietly, her eyes flicking between the two of them. There was an unspoken understanding in her gaze, and for a moment, Eric felt grounded again. "I'll come back later," Lily said gently, stepping out of the room before Sarah could say anything. Eric watched her go, feeling the weight of the conversation hang between him and Sarah like a storm cloud. He wasn't sure how things would turn out, but for the first time, he knew he needed to be honest, with himself and with Sarah. And maybe, just maybe, with Lily too. The room felt heavy after Lily left, her absence leaving a lingering quietness that made the conversation between Eric and Sarah all the more tense. Sarah stood with her arms crossed, her expression hard, trying to process what Eric had just said. He could see the confusion in her eyes, but there was also a flicker of something else: anger, maybe, or disbelief. "You're seriously suggesting we rethink our marriage?" Sarah's voice was sharp, almost incredulous. "Eric, we've been planning this for over a year. What's gotten into you? Eric took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. His heart raced, and he could feel the tightness in his chest again, but this time it wasn't from his injuries. It was from the weight of everything he'd been holding back. "I don't know, Sarah," he said slowly, his voice quiet but firm. "Things between us haven't been right for a while. You know that." Sarah's face hardened. "What are you talking about? We have a great life. We're just stressed about the wedding, that's all." Eric shook his head. "It's more than that, Sarah. It's the constant fighting, the spending, the feeling like we're not even on the same page anymore. It's like we're living two different lives." Sarah looked at him for a long moment, her arms still crossed tightly over her chest. She opened her mouth to speak, then closed it again, clearly at a loss for words. Finally, she sighed, dropping her arms and turning to look out the window. "We've been through a lot, Eric," she said, her voice softer now, almost tired. "I know things haven't been perfect, but we can work on it. We don't need to make any big decisions right now, especially not while you're recovering." Eric's eyes followed hers to the window, watching the soft sunlight spill into the room. He wanted to believe her, wanted to believe that they could fix things, but deep down, he wasn't sure if they were even speaking the same language anymore. Every conversation, every argument, it all came back to the same problem. They wanted different things. Sarah wanted a life full of excitement, new experiences, and things that made her feel alive. Eric wanted stability, a future they could build together, something real and lasting. "I'm not trying to rush into anything," Eric said after a long pause. "But we need to face the truth. We've been ignoring these problems for months, hoping they'd just go away, but they haven't. And now I don't know if we can keep pretending everything's okay." Sarah's face was unreadable as she turned back to him. For a moment, it seemed like she might say something more, but instead, she just shook her head. "You're overthinking this, Eric. Once you're better, once the wedding is back on track, things will go back to normal." "Normal?" Eric repeated, the word bitter on his tongue. "Sarah, what is normal anymore? All we do is fight. We haven't talked about anything real in months. I feel like I don't even know you anymore." That seemed to sting. Sarah's eyes flashed with hurt, and for the first time since she'd walked into the room, she looked genuinely vulnerable. "You don't know me," she said quietly, her voice trembling. "I'm your fiancé, Eric. We've been together for years. How can you say that?" Eric closed his eyes, guilt flooding his chest. This wasn't how he had wanted the conversation to go, but the truth was out now, and there was no taking it back. "I didn't mean it like that," he said softly. I don't know who we are as a couple anymore. It's like we've lost ourselves somewhere along the way." Sarah stared at him, her hands now gripping the back of the chair next to her. "So, what do you want to do?" she asked, her voice sharper now, laced with frustration. "Do you want to break up? Call off the wedding? Is that what this is about?" Eric hesitated, the weight of the question pressing down on him. He had thought about it, more than he cared to admit, but the idea of actually ending things with Sarah still felt like too much. They had been through so much together. He had loved her deeply once, and part of him still did. But that love was tangled up in so many other emotions now. Frustration, sadness, confusion. He wasn't sure how to separate them anymore. I don't know, Eric said finally, his voice barely a whisper. I just know something has to change. We can't keep going like this. Sarah stared at him for a long moment, her expression a mix of disbelief and anger. Then, without another word, she grabbed her purse from the chair and headed toward the door. I can't deal with this right now, she said coldly, her back to him. I'll come back when you've had time to think about what you really want. With that, she left the room, the door closing softly behind her. Eric stared at the empty space where she had been, feeling a strange mixture of relief and guilt settle over him. He had been waiting for that conversation for weeks, maybe months, and now that it had finally happened, he wasn't sure how to feel. Part of him felt lighter, as if a weight had been lifted from his chest. But another part of him felt hollow, like something important had just slipped away, and he wasn't sure if he'd ever get it back. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Nurses came and went, checking his vitals, bringing him food, adjusting his medications. Eric barely noticed any of it. His mind was spinning with everything that had been said, or left unsaid, between him and Sarah. He didn't know what their future looked like anymore. He didn't even know if they had a future. It was late afternoon when Lily returned. She knocked softly on the door before stepping inside, her usual calm presence filling the room. "Hey," she said quietly, her eyes scanning his face. "How are you doing?" Eric forced a smile, though he knew it didn't reach his eyes. "I've been better." Lily pulled the chair up beside his bed again, sitting down without her usual clipboard or medical equipment. This time, she was just there for him, for no other reason. "I saw Sarah leave earlier," she said gently. "Did you two talk?" Eric nodded, feeling a lump form in his throat. "Yeah." It wasn't easy. Lily didn't press him for details, but her eyes were full of understanding. Relationships are hard, especially when you're going through something like this. It's a lot to handle. Eric sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I don't know what to do. Part of me still loves her, but the other part, I don't know if we're right for each other anymore." Lily was quiet for a moment, her gaze steady and thoughtful. "It sounds like you're in a tough place," she said softly. "But you don't have to have all the answers right now. It's okay to take things one step at a time." Eric looked at her, feeling a strange sense of comfort in her words. Lily had this way of making everything seem a little less overwhelming, like the weight he had been carrying was just a little lighter when she was around. "Thanks," he said quietly. "I guess I just feel lost." Lily smiled gently. "It's normal to feel that way, especially after what you've been through. But you're not alone, Eric. You'll figure it out, one way or another." There was something in her voice that made Eric believe her, even if just for a moment. He wasn't sure what the future held, whether with Sarah or without her, but for now, he was grateful for Lily's presence, for the way she seemed to understand without him needing to explain. As the sun began to set outside the window, casting a warm glow over the room, Eric felt a small flicker of hope. Maybe things weren't as clear as he wanted them to be. Maybe the road ahead was uncertain. But for the first time in a long time, he didn't feel like he had to face it alone. The days that followed were quieter. Sarah didn't come back to the hospital right away, and Eric found himself thinking less and less about her as time went on. Instead, he focused on his recovery, on getting stronger, on figuring out what came next. Lily continued to be a constant presence, helping him through his physical therapy and keeping him company during the long hours of the day. They talked about everything: her love of painting, her dreams of traveling, her life in the small town she had never really left. Eric found himself looking forward to their conversations, to the moments when Lily would sit by his bed and talk to him like they were old friends. She was different from anyone he had ever known: calm, grounded, and completely unpretentious. She didn't care about material things, and didn't need to impress anyone. She was just real. And slowly, without him even realizing it, Eric started to feel something for her. Something he hadn't felt in a long time. Something that made him question everything he thought he knew about love. The days stretched into weeks, and during that time, Sarah remained a distant figure in Eric's life. She didn't call or visit the hospital again. At first, Eric expected her to come back, to try to talk things through. But as time passed, the silence between them grew louder, more final. The gap that had been forming for months now felt like a canyon, and Eric wasn't sure if either of them had the energy or the desire to bridge it. He spent most of his time focused on his recovery. Physical therapy was tough, but he pushed through it, determined to get back on his feet. Each small victory, a few steps on crutches, a stretch without pain, felt like a reminder that he could rebuild his life, piece by piece. And through it all, Lily was there, offering quiet support. Eric found himself thinking about her more than he wanted to admit. Every time she walked into the room, the atmosphere seemed to shift. The way she listened, the way she genuinely cared, it was unlike anything he had experienced with Sarah in recent months.